Hello, friends, and welcome back to Sesh Cast. My name is GLDLX. This is Sesh Cast, a cannabis podcast for cannabis sessions. And today I am going to knock the social media episode out of the top spot for my most millennially targeted episode with this episode about adulting. I've had a week. I've had a month. Hasn't been your day, your month, your week, or even your year. I think I said that out of order, but deal with it. I didn't watch the show that much. I've had a week, and it's been making me think about the phrase adulting a lot. And so I wanted to sit down and get high about that. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to sit down, I'm going to get high about it, and I don't know, we're just going to talk for a little while. So, obviously, the phrase adulting, I think, lends pretty hard to the millennial generation, those of you around the same age as myself. But that being said, if you're over the age of 35 and you're listening to this, first off, thank you. I appreciate it beyond belief. And second off, I would encourage you not to just run away, because I think that I'm going to talk a lot about this, or I'm going to talk about a lot of things in this episode, and for one, I'm definitely going to talk about this phrase adulting and the way that it is perceived by different generations. So if you're not part of the millennial generation, I would encourage you to stick around anyway. I think it's going to be interesting, and I hope it's interesting for you, and I hope it's worth you sticking around. Okay, so that was a lot of an introduction. This is Sesh Cast. Hello. I get high and I talk about things if you've never listened to the podcast before. First off, again, let me say thank you for stopping by. I do appreciate it. I am available in all the places podcasts are found, so if you are listening to me in a way that is not the most convenient for you, I hope that it can become more convenient to you soon. I have an Instagram that is at SeshCast. You can follow me there. That's where I post about the new episodes that come out, and I'm just some guy named Goldilocks who gets high and talks about things. So that's me, and that's who I am, and that's what this podcast is. And I feel like I need to remind myself of all this because it's been like a week and a half since I've recorded an episode. And it's just kind of like knocked me out of the groove and knocked me out of the flow. And this feels like a little weird and a little different now. Not that it is. There's nothing different about what I'm doing today versus what I've done any other day. It just feels a little different. Because it's been so long since I've recorded an episode. So, I don't know. I guess maybe we should get into what I'm smoking on today. Today, I am smoking a pretty much 50-50 split of some King Louis the 13th and some Granddaddy Purple. And it's pretty awesome. I like both of these weed a lot. I can't really give you a great taste for either of them because I'm smoking them together right now. And I'm smoking them in this, what some might call hideous, and what I will choose to call lovingly adorable little joint that I rolled on my Instagram Live today. If you've never seen or don't follow me on Instagram or any of that, I have little Instagram Live sessions before I record each episode. And typically it's just like a image or the video of like one of my fancy lights or something just kind of fun to look at. But today I rolled up a joint on camera. Not well, relatively poorly, in fact. Not the worst joint I've ever rolled, but definitely up there on that list. Because today is 2 days before 420, and I didn't want to really smoke out of any of my glass. I smoked out of my Nobody Spoon on Instagram, but that's already soaking in alcohol. I clean all of my glass before 420. I don't know. I'll get into that too, I'm sure. But I'm smoking this joint. You can find a picture of it on my Instagram one more time. That is at SeshCast, all one word. And, go on there and judge my joint making skills. Let me know how awful I am. I'm trying to lick a little bit of the glue shut that I just realized is popping up. That's great. I post pictures of the glass that I collect and then I smoke out of for each episode on my Instagram. And so today I posted a picture of this joint, and I'm not super proud of it, but I put it up there anyway. So go there and laugh at it if you do so choose. Or I I think it's kind of cute, honestly. I'm not great at rolling joints. I am a self-taught joint roller, and so if you're really great at rolling joints, congratulations, because it is a skill and it's a hard skill to learn. I am okay. Um, okay in the sense of if you have a bag of weed at a party and all we have is rolling papers, we can smoke that weed with me in the room. But not good enough that I should be posting pictures of joints that I roll on Instagram, and not good enough that I should be proud of rolling joints, nor good enough that I should be saying, oh yeah, I can roll nearly as much as I do, because this just goes to prove that, when the pressure is really on and I'm on camera, I can't. But I tried. And so I'm smoking on this joint today. It's Granddaddy Purple and King Louis XIII. I'm going to go ahead and start to get this lit here. But I do want to say thank you so much for stopping by today. I do appreciate it. Thanks for taking a little time out of your day to join this podcast. And I hope that you're partaking in the devil's lettuce while you are listening to this podcast, or smoking on some of that jazz cabbage, and getting nice and toasty. And I hope that that's great for you. And you know what? If you're not, I hope you're enjoying whatever it is you're doing, because this episode is coming out on 4/19, and the day after it'll be 4/20. So happy 4/19 to you if you're listening to this on release day. Happy 4/20 if you're listening on 4/20. And, happy day to you if you're listening back to this later. So I am lighting the tip of this joint, and now I am awkwardly talking, waiting for this joint to light. It's like when I used hemp wick. It's super weird because I already lit the lighter, and now I've got to find something to ramble about. Oh, but I think we're lit. Hold on. Ah, yes. And as I said on Instagram Live, while this joint is ugly, it do smoke. And I will choose functionality over aesthetic 10 times out of 10. I'm going to fix the canoe on this guy a little bit real quick. Great. So this will be interesting to do the music for this episode. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet, because I don't want to totally talk out this joint every time. And I still want to have music in my hits. But I'm going to be taking a lot of these little hits like that. So I don't really know what I'm going to do about that yet. But I'm going to take one more big drag of this, and then I'll talk for a while. Alrighty. So, I actually decided that I'm just gonna, I've got to nurse this joint for the next 45 minutes, so I'm just gonna snuff it out between hits, and I feel good about that decision. So, today, we're gonna talk about the phrase adulting. Are we gonna talk about adulting in general? I don't know, but we're gonna talk about the phrase adulting, because that's been on my mind a lot lately, kind of a weird amount, because I've been doing a lot of adulting type things, and I've been seeing a lot of stuff on Facebook lately about how, maybe not Facebook, maybe just kind of all over the world, of adulting getting sort of a negative connotation, and not doing adult things. I just mean the phrase adulting. Everybody's angry at that word right now, and I don't really get it. I think that the phrase adulting is perceived completely differently by two different generations, being the millennial generation and the Gen X generation. Maybe it's the baby boomers. I don't know. Gen X is just kind of there. They don't have a lot of opinions. But between millennials and baby boomers, definitely, there's this huge difference in the way the phrase adulting is perceived. And listen, I've been doing a lot of adulting this week. It's tax season. I've been knocking that out of the park. Got that done early. I'm not going to lie. I'm pretty proud of that. I've spent a huge majority of my week car shopping, which has been miserable, let me tell you. I have worked an absolute boatload this week, just a disgusting amount. And I'm recording this episode today, and I have so much to do today. I've stopped in the middle of my day to record this episode, and I don't want this. I'm not complaining. I'm explaining. This is just expansion, not please don't. So here's the kicker. Let me try and clarify what I'm stumbling about. Um, I was more stressed to come home and smoke weed today than I've been in a really long time, and I have no right to complain or be stressed about coming home and smoking weed. But here I am, adulting, quote unquote. I'm working a lot. I'm paying bills. I'm getting taxes taken care of. I've got a car payment I'm about to take on. And so I'm working a boatload, and I still want to keep this podcast going. And interestingly enough, I was just chatting with somebody else from the podcast group that I'm in on Facebook about getting burnt out. And I'm not burnt out on this podcast, but I'm finding this point where suddenly I have this hobby. And this hobby revolves around taking 2 to 3 hours out of my day at least once a week to sit down and smoke weed and record a podcast. And that's a great hobby to have, and it's a hobby that I love having. But as any of you who smoke weed know, it's not like you finish smoking weed and then suddenly the rest of your day is just peachy. Like, if you still got stuff to do after you've smoked a decent amount of weed, which I do for every episode, I smoke like almost a gram an episode at least. Today it's probably like a gram and a half. And then you got stuff to do. Like, it's just hard, man. Some people are super productive when they get high. I am not. I am very far from being productive when I'm high. Like, I just struggle to want to do anything other than just be high, because being high is such an overwhelmingly positive experience for me. It's kind of like, it's the kicker of using cannabis medically, predominantly. And like I've said before, like, yeah, I use cannabis predominantly medically, but that does not take the recreation out of smoking weed. Like, it's not less fun to smoke weed just because it's your medicine. For some people, they may disagree with me, but that's my personal opinion. Anyway, I don't know how I got on that topic, but some people are really productive when they smoke. Some people get high and they just like bust stuff out or go to the gym or, do things. I'm not that person. Like, I like to get high and then just be high and enjoy it and hang out and watch TV and listen to music and eat food and laugh. Like, that's what I like to do when I'm stoned. And so I've still got work to do tonight. I've got to clean my house because 420 is right around the corner, and of course I'm having folks over. So I've just got a lot to do tonight, and I'm finding myself in this weird situation where my whole life I've had hobbies, and those hobbies have taken huge chunks of my time and crazy amounts out of my life to pursue those hobbies. But here I am having a hobby as a quote-unquote adult, and it's suddenly much harder. And so I'm understanding why there is this difference in opinion about the word adulting between people who have adulted for longer and people who are just now beginning to adult. So, like, your baby boomers and your millennials, or your Gen Xers and your millennials. And I understand to a sense why people are like, I don't like the word adulting. I don't like when kids say adulting. I don't totally get it, but I understand why there's a difference in opinion there. Because here I am now at the ripe old age of 24, which I acknowledge is not that old, acknowledging that life is much different now than it was like 6 years ago. Life is, like, it's harder to enjoy myself. It's harder to just sit around and have time for me and chill and do what I want to do than it was 6 years ago when I was, quick math, 28, 18. I've never been 28. I am high though. So like life is different at 24 than it was at 18. I turned 25 here right soon, and like, I'm realizing that difference. And so I can only imagine the difference that you realize about life when you're sitting at 65 and when you're sitting at 25. I see how people who are older have spent so much more time in this lifestyle where it's harder to take time for yourself. It's harder to just relax. This whole self-care word that keeps getting thrown around. The older you get, the harder that gets, or at least that is how I'm becoming to understand it, or that's how I am becoming to understand it. Is that the right way to say that? I think that's the right way to say that. Like, I am learning that the older you get, the harder it is to take care of you, and not like, physically or like hygiene or any of that, or health. I'm talking like just you as a person in general. It's harder to spend time with yourself the older you get. It's harder to enjoy your free time the older you get. Just because the older you get, the more that stuff goes away until you like crest the magical retirement landmark, which, like, it may happen in 5 years from now. Nobody may retire anymore. Who knows? Like, until you get to a point where you have free time again, the older you get, the less free time you have. And that's like kind of mind boggling to me, because I think that the older I get, the more envious I am of the younger me. And when I was younger, I was so envious of what I would become, and I just wanted to like become an adult. I wanted to grow up, and I wish I could go back in time and tell myself to enjoy the moment and let it slow down, and just relax for a little while, which here I am at 25 telling myself that now, to slow down and enjoy life and just relax. Like, I'm trying to explain that to myself now at 25, and I wish I could go back and explain it to myself at like 14. The kid who just wanted to get out of high school, who just wanted to be done with school, who just wanted to be like in a job. Like, I wish I could go back there and tell myself to slow my roll, because at 25, I wish that I had slowed my roll for the last 25 years, and I'm hoping that I can figure out a way to slow my roll for the next 25 years. And so when it comes to the phrase adulting, for kids my age, here we are, like, learning things, and it's exhausting. Like, we're taking on new experiences almost every day, and they're things that even 6 years ago we didn't even realize we had to do. And that's hard, and it wears out on you, and especially because I think the millennials are like the depression generation or something like that. We all have mental health problems, and all of us are just like bummed out all the time. Like, how am I trying to say this? I lost my train of thought. Dang it. We all have our own head games that we're trying to get around. Everybody does. Every single person in the world has their own headspace that they're trying to navigate through. And my generation, it seems, has more headspace issues than the other generations. Call it what you want. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's just how it seems. And so most of us, to try and support other people our age, are constantly telling each other to like chill out, take time to yourself, self-care, self-care, self-care. Self-care, not my favorite word in the world, but a word that I think makes sense. And like, here we are telling each other to like, you gotta chill, like you gotta find time to yourself, you've gotta relax, gotta do things that you enjoy, while at the same time, like, we're learning every day the new pieces that it takes to be an adult, and that's scary and hard, man. And so when I see news anchors or adults on Facebook or crappy people who I should unfriend from my hometown, like, when I see them ranting about kids like, like, oh, we never called it adulting. Back in my day, you were just growing up. Like, I never, you shouldn't be rewarded for adulting or whatever. Like, that's the stuff I'm seeing a lot of, and I really implore people with that opinion to remember that, like, we're learning this stuff that you learned a long time ago, and nobody told us that it was going to be hard, and this is just our way of coping with it. And so, if you adulted today, if you're a millennial and you adulted today, or if you're an adult and you adulted today, congratulations, because it's tough. And I don't know if anybody is congratulating you enough for doing the things that you end up being required to do every day. But just because you do them all the time, it doesn't make them less mentally taxing on you. And I've learned that a lot this week, because I've been going through taxes, which is something I'm going to do every single year. I've been going through a car purchase, which is something that when our other car busts out here in like probably not the so distant future, I'm going to be doing again. And I'm sure I'll do a couple more times in my life. And I'm starting to talk about like house sales. and I'm starting to talk about moving, and I'm starting to talk about waiting for new jobs to pop up and things like that. Like, I'm doing things that I'm sure I'm going to do a lot from here on out. Um, but just because you do them all the time doesn't make them suck any less or doesn't make them any less mentally taxing. And so I think that there is this mentality, and I think that it is predominantly among the older Gen Xers and the baby boomers, that because you do something every day doesn't mean you should be congratulated for it. Um, and I don't think that's true. If you do something all the time and it's still hard, you still deserve a pat on the back for doing it. Um, I just, that's just kind of the opinion I've had, as I've been going through all this crap, and every time I talk to somebody or like try and glean a little advice on what's going on in my life, frequently I'm met with like oh yeah, that sucks, I did that too, like, you just got to get through it. And like, you're right, I do, we all do. I'm not trying to make this about me. I'm really not. I don't care if you care about my problems, honestly. I'm just trying to I'm trying to put out the thought of I think a shared generation here. Like, I know that we do this stuff every day, but if you do something every day and it's hard for you, you still deserve a bit of a pat on the back for doing it. And I know I was going on a little tangent there and I lost track of it, and I'm sorry. But I'm gonna relight this joint up here, and I think I'm just gonna sit and puff on this for a little while. So enjoy the music. I'm gonna smoke some weed. I hope you can smoke some weed. Cheers. I do love smoking joints, man. It's one of my favorite things. Like, one of my favorite ways to smoke weed. I will say this joint is smoking great. I do always impress myself, like, no matter how ugly my joints are, no matter how gross they look, they smoke well, and that's awesome. Alright. Start to put this out here. I'll get after this again 10 minutes or so. I think I'm going to do big, long chunks of music. I'm like telling this to future me. That's how I'm going to do the music for this episode. Big, long chunks with some talkovers. Alright. Let's stuff this guy out, and I'll keep talking about adulting for a little while. I want to kind of backtrack here. I do want to make this super clear that, like, I'm not doing this podcast to rant about my problems. And you know what? If there are podcasts out there that are for people to rant about their problems, good for them. Like, no judgment, no harsh feels. That's just not what I want to do. I seriously just want to talk about this, like, concept of adulting for a hot minute, because I think it's a really interesting one. And so here are some things that I think people call adulting. Car sales, what I'm going through right now. But then, like, grocery shopping, paying bills, going to work on a consistent schedule, managing doctor's appointments, making doctor's appointments, making appointments for mother-loving anything. Like, cooking regularly, eating something more than Chipotle. I don't know. There's so many things. This list could go on forever. And it's all because these are things that you don't pick up along the way, are things that you will one day be responsible for. And I'm not sure that there's a really good way to make kids more aware of things that they will have to one day be responsible for without ending up being kind of a jerk. These are all just things that you sort of have to learn on your own as you go. That, like, man, one day I'm going to have to take care of that, and that sucks. And you end up learning that you're going to have to take care of it on, like, the day you're going to have to take care of it. You know, when you've gone to college and you get sick and you realize, like, I need to make a doctor's appointment. My mom has done that every time I've ever had one. What do I do? And so when you accomplish things like that, that's pretty cool. You know, like, that's a good thing. You've made it something. You've done something. Congrats. Um, that's not something that I think a lot of people give credit for. You know, like, you go to the grocery store, you get food you need. Good job. You pay your bills on time. You don't end up paying any late fees. Great job. You get a credit card, you use it, and you don't run up a huge credit card credit card debt. Great job. Congratulations. Like, those are all big things that are cool. And I think a lot of people in this world have forgotten that they had to do that for the first time once too. Because at the end of the day, the more you do this stuff, the easier it starts to get. Not all things, I don't want to contradict what I said earlier, but the more often you do things, the more routine they become and the easier they become to handle. And so while adulting is very scary from our perspective, I think a lot of people realize that it's going to get better for those of us it is scary for, but some of those people may have also known that it was scary for them once too. At least I think that's what I'm trying to get to here. I think a lot of people had these really scary moments and have forgotten that feeling, because that's a hard feeling to hold on to. You know, like, I'm sure that there were things, I know there were things that I was really terrified to do growing up. And some of those things I can go back and, like, remember how it felt, and other things, like, that feeling is kind of gone for me. It's been so long since I was a little kid. And so it doesn't surprise me that this older generation, or if you are listening to this and you're not a millennial, your generation, sorry, I'm trying not to point this. I don't know who's listening. If you're listening, hello. Thank you. I see what you're doing, and I probably approve of it. I don't really see what you're doing. I'm looking directly into my microphone. I am really high though. So, like, I don't know who's listening, so I don't want to make this an us versus them or a you versus me thing. The older generation, I think, could stand to be a little more sympathetic for the way that millennials process through adulting, quote unquote, process through daily life accomplishments. Because for us, it's a big thing, and we're not trying to reward ourselves for everything. This isn't the like participation trophy crap. This isn't that. This is like that we needed a word to put all of these things together. And, like, we needed a word for all the things we didn't know. And we decided to call it adulting. And I'm sure that when a lot of people were growing up way back, 30, 40 years ago, they needed a word for the things they didn't know, and I don't know what that word was. But apparently it wasn't adulting, because now we're saying adulting, and it's irritating people. And I guess in a really, like, to come in a big full circle, that's kind of what's confusing me. I'm confused as to why people are upset about the way we've decided to call something. I think that made sense. I don't know. I'm all over the place here. I've been doing a lot of stuff. And I've been realizing that I've seen a lot of other people do all this stuff. And I'm realizing that it's hard for me. Like, I'm struggling through some of these things. And I've seen a lot of other people struggle through some of these things. And I've seen a lot of those people greeted by the same, like, well, it's hard for everybody. Like, you just got to do it. And at the other end of that, there's never really a, like, hey, good job with that thing. Like, congratulations on adulting. Good job doing something you didn't know how to do and facing it head on and powering through it and accomplishing it. Good job with that. Whatever that was, no matter how big or how small. That, I think, is what adulting is. Maybe that's where I'm trying to get to with this podcast. Really, if you've listened to me ramble for a half an hour, high five. Good on you. Like, I don't know where exactly I'm going, but what I'm trying to say here is that, like, adulting is taking something head on, and something that you don't know how to do, and just powering through and doing it and figuring it out as you go. And that's often the way that happens. And sometimes you get help and sometimes you don't, but you end up doing it on your own for the first time, or for the first couple times, the first handful, maybe even the first 100 times. And it's scary every time, um, because it's a new thing. And if you were to do a new thing, if you are somebody who hates the phrase adulting, if you're somebody who doesn't feel like people should be congratulated for the little things that they accomplish, and that's your opinion, you're entitled to it. But if you're one of those people, just remember that you doing something new could be scary the first 100 times. I'm an avid rock climber. I rappel a lot, I climb a lot, I jump off a lot of things. And if you've never done that before, the first 100 times are going to be pretty nerve-wracking. That being said, never really been on a small boat, like a sailboat size boat. I don't particularly love the ocean, and so I'm sure the first bunch of times I were to go out on a boat, that would be really scary for me. But, like, here we are, calling things that are scary for us adulting down here in my generation. All of us at about 24, give take a half dozen to a dozen years, whatever the millennial generation is. I think I'm kind of at the bottom of it. I think it's above me, but whatever. Like, here we are calling things we don't know adulting and just trying to get through, and people are getting us upset at us for that. I think. At least that's how I'm perceiving the world right now. I don't know. There it is. There's the us versus them part. There's the me versus them thing, which I'm trying to avoid. Because I like to bring people together. I don't like to tear people apart. I don't want to make this an us versus them thing. Maybe as I'm sticking my foot in my mouth so hard, I should stick this joint in my mouth. Maybe that's what I need to do here. I don't know. This is such a strange topic. I'm going to puff this joint again. There we go. Now we're going. And there's burning ash on the couch. Yeah, this whole adulting thing is weird. And I don't really know what the purpose of this podcast was. Maybe to be therapeutic for me. And I don't really think that's true. I'm not really into the, like, self-therapy in that way. At least on a podcast. Like, I don't have to put my problems out there for me to feel better about them. Not saying that's a bad thing. I'm processing here. I'm smoking a joint. Like, I'm trying to talk and smoke a joint. It's hard. Get over it. It's hard to do a podcast and smoke a joint at the same time with just you in the room. Listening to music that isn't there. You have the music. I don't have the music. I don't really know what the purpose was. I just know that I've seen this phrase around a lot, and I've been saying this phrase a lot. And so I wanted to say it on a microphone, I guess. Because it's weird, like, adulting is just interesting. And the more I do it, the more I find that out. And so I think I'm going to try and, I don't know if I've done this or not yet, but I think I'm going to try to explain what adulting is if you don't understand. I think I've done that a lot, but I don't know. I'm going to smoke this a little more, and I'm going to talk. Alright. Stuff this guy out. That should leave me just enough for the end of the episode. Great. That was the goal. I'm doing well. Good job, me. So, here we are. I'm back. Let me fade that music down for you. I don't really know what more to say about adulting. What I want to say is that a lot of us right now, a lot of millennials right now, are doing things they've never done before, every single day. And if a lot of those millennials are like me, you're finding out more every single day that is your responsibility to do. And the more you do it, the more used to it you become. But I don't know that it ever gets like less difficult to find out you got something else you got to take care of. And I'm sure that's going to happen to me every day for the rest of my life. But at the age that I'm at right now, it's pretty hard. And I think a lot of people feel that way. So if you're out there and you're feeling that way, I'm right there with you. I really am. And it sucks, and I'm sorry. I wish that you didn't feel the way you felt. And I hope that soon you don't have to. Because it is hard. It's real hard. And if you're not feeling this way right now, I envy you, first and foremost, and second, let me say that I'm sure at one point in your life you have. At one point in your life you have been struggling with every single thing you've had to do every single day. And so I implore you to remember those times. And if you encounter somebody else who has fallen onto those times or that sort of time, be kind to them. I think that this whole world could be a little kinder to everybody else, and that's probably the weed talking, but that's okay. So all of us out here adulting, we could stand to be kind to each other, and everyone could stand to be kind to anyone who is in that sort of adulting phase. And whether you're adulting at 24, adulting at 17, or adulting at 45, whatever age you're at, like, if you're in one of those spots where everything is hard and you're learning something new every day, and you're 56 years old, you're adulting too. And that's okay. It's a life situation that we all find ourselves in. And I hope that it goes well, and I hope that you power through it. Because it's hard. It really is. And again, let me talk to those of you who aren't feeling this way. If you encounter someone who is, just be cool. Offer to help, and don't force it. But if somebody's looking for help and you can give help to that person, give it. Just be cool. Like, if you bump into somebody and they have a major issue and you have the easy answer to their major issue, don't scoff and don't just shove your answer on them and be like, well, you just had to do this. Like, be cool. Help that person out. Because they don't have the answer. And if you can give it to them, they're going to have the answer to that question for a long time. I changed my serpentine belt 2 weeks ago. I couldn't have done that ever in a million years, but I had a really good buddy and coworker who was willing to take me over to his garage and show me how to change my serpentine belt. And that saved me like $75, which is a huge chunk of change in my world. So that was really cool. And those people those people who are willing to offer the help that they have, or are willing to give the answers that they have in a cool way. Y'all out there saving the world, keep doing what you're doing. It is more appreciated than you might ever know. So I'm gonna spark this joint up one more time. And I'm gonna roach it until we're out of here. So I'm gonna puff on this for a second. Cheers. And here we get into the issue of I rolled a joint and didn't put a big enough tip in it. And I don't have a roach clip down here. I do have a mustache though. And none of those things are a good combination. And that sucks. But this joint, I will say, as ugly as it was, smoked great. And it's still smoking pretty dang well. You can peep at it on my Instagram. Please, be rude. Tell me your comments. I want to know them. Hit me as hard as you want. Tell me what you think of my joint. I will say that this joint wouldn't have been possible without these crappy Hell City papers that I have. Not particularly sure what brand they are or where they're from. 100% were a free handout at a concert. And they suck, but I rolled with them. This Jefferson Glasgow business card that I used as my filter tip, and my Lift Innovations grinder. This episode brought to you by none of those things monetarily, but all of those things spiritually. Thank you so much. I do have to say, this Lift Innovations grinder, best grinder I've ever had. It's thebomb.com. If you're peeping for a new grinder and you're willing to lay down some coin, and I didn't pay for mine, it was a gift. Lift Innovations, they are stellar. There's a picture of it on my Instagram. That's not going to do it justice, though. But instead of like the grinder teeth, they have an actual little saw blade inside of the thing. Like chops your weed instead of smashes it. I have to relight this joint. I talked it out. It's just, it's roachy, man. It's real light. Yeah, it's a great grinder. Big fan. Come on, little joint. Light me up for the end of the episode. Good enough. I think that might be what calls it, though. So, thank you all for listening. It's so appreciated. By you checking out this podcast, you are helping me adult a little bit. You're giving me the answer to something, so thank you. Find me in all... Oh, gosh. Here it is. I got the roach cough. Find me all the places. I'm Sesh Cast. Instagram mostly, and all your podcast places. Take one more hit of this, and I'm gonna go. So, happy 419, happy 420, happy day to you. Adult on. You can do it. Cheers. My name is GLDLX. This has been Sesh Cast. Thank you so much for listening.